You're listening to Now Breakfast.
This is Today in the News on Now Breakfast.
Today in the news, the federal government has announced a policy that compels ministries, departments and agencies to reserve a 5% employment slot for persons with disabilities across the federation. The decision was conveyed by Mohammed Abba Issa, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Persons with Disabilities in Damaturu, Yobe State, during a meeting with disabled persons and relevant stakeholders. Mr. Abba Issa explained that this move is to ensure that persons with disabilities are empowered and have an improved quality of life. Radio Now's Nabila Usman speaks with Festus Okwe, the Communications Assistant at Inclusive Friends Association. Mr. Okwe starts by reacting to the government's announcement.
I think this development is a good one, given the clamor we have had over the years to ensure that persons with disabilities are adequately included in the workforce. So it's kudos to the government for actually thinking about it, even though we do have the law under Section 29 of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act. If the government is thinking about a national strategy and policy to implement that particular section, then it is a good thing, and we commend them for that. Although I do have some concerns.
Can you share those concerns with us?
Yes, I do have some concern with respect to the phrasing of the statement of the Special Assistant to the President on Disability Matters, talking about Honorable Mohammed Issa. I think when we speak of 5% reservation for persons with disabilities, I have serious concerns with that word, reservation for persons with disabilities. The law is clear that all employees, especially of public institutions, shall, as much as possible, ensure that persons with disabilities constitute 5% of their employment. It is not about the reservation. It's about ensuring that that reservation is filled. Because it is one thing to have a reservation, it is another thing to have that reservation filled. So I think from my perspective, the law, as progressive as it is concerned about ensuring that that 5% persons with disabilities actually constitute and are able to fill it. So what that means is that we should be speaking of ensuring that persons with disabilities constitute 5% of the employment in government, rather than emphasizing on 5% reservation.
So this reservation is at federal level alone. Are you concerned that the states are not necessarily a part of this announcement?
I think there has been issues trying to domesticate the Disability Act across board in Nigeria. So what we have done from my own organization, the Inclusive Friends Association, we have seen and we have been making efforts to ensure that this domestication is done across board. So it is a good thing that we are beginning to see some steps being taken at the federal level. But until these steps actually trickle down to the states, where we have the bulk of the masses, especially persons with disabilities, I think we will still be just beating around the issue. So there is a need to ensure that states, there is a need for collaboration between the federal government and the state government to ensure that the policies of the federal government actually trickle down to the state level. And then this also calls for the domestication of the Disability Act in states, across states in Nigeria.
Are you concerned that perhaps this announcement is more of tokenism than a genuine commitment?
Yes, it may appear so. Of course, in the disability community as a whole, we have always had issues with trying to placate the disability community with statements rather than actions. For instance, the government is speaking of to reserve 5% employment. But we have not seen, if this is a policy that the government is thinking about, let's say a national strategic policy to ensure that ministries are able to actually implement this section of the Disability Act. But we have not seen any but we have not seen this policy. We have not even seen what this policy. We have not seen what this policy entails. We have not seen the actions. What would be done? So all we see are statements. So one may not be too critical if we say this is more like tokenism rather than substance. We do have such concerns in the disability community, and it's unfortunately what we have lived with over the years. So I do hope that the government should go beyond mere statements to actually ensuring that there are concrete actions towards realizing this particular policy.
That was Festus Okwe, Communications Assistant at Inclusive Friends Association, speaking on the federal government's decision to reserve 5% of employment slots across ministries, departments, and agencies for persons with disabilities across the Federation.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, has suggested conditions which must be present in the southeast before the region can secure the release of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. Speaking of the person of Nnamdi Kanu, Mr. Kalu said this while he was home in Abia State visiting over the last few days. And according to him, the region can only realize the release of Mr. Kanu through peaceful negotiations and not by arm twisting the federal government. Mr. Kanu has remained in detention despite a ruling from a state high court on the 19th of January 2022, which declared his 2017 arrest as unlawful and an infringement on his human rights. Our guest this morning is Chris Wilson. Mr. Wilson is a public commentator who joins us to discuss this matter. Good morning and welcome to the conversation, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, good morning, and good morning, Nigerians.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Let's start off with your reaction to this comment by the Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps.
Well, I think his position is not far-fetched from what other Southeast leaders and people like us are championing. You don't discuss about peace, or you don't discuss about the release of any person in the midst of war. From what I was able to deduce from what Ben Kalu was saying is that while people are yearning for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, there is need for peace in the southeast region. Yes, because that will convince the federal government that yes, that these people are ready, for negotiation, and that the intention is well meant. While Ben was, talking, there was something that he mentioned which is equally germane. I consider that germane. When you are talking about peace, you have to show your own part of the bargain, your willingness to accept whatever that, or not only whatever, to accept the willingness to reduce the tension in the region. Why a lot of persons might, be angry with former President Buhari on why he didn't release Nnamdi Kanu. For me, I have said, I said when Buhari was in power that no leader would, just release the kind of Nnamdi Kanu just like that. You understand? Because as it is, the environment is tense, and nobody knows what will happen if he's released. So. There's need for peace in the southeast region. There's need for people to convince the federal government, the president, by extension, that they are ready for peace.
So, Mr. Wilson, let me ask you this: considering that the instability in the region has been ascribed to IPOB, and considering its antecedents, do you expect that they will be in any way open to this suggestion that was made by the Deputy Speaker?
Yes, there could be possibility for all those things. There's a huge possibility for on the discussion, the roundtable discussion, and those who are agitating for the release of Nnamdi Kanu are human beings. It is not about only IPOB people that are agitating for his release. Well-meaning Igbos are equally agitating for his release. we've heard the likes of Ohanese national president agitating for the release of Kanu. The late SDF was agitating for Kanu. We have many persons. I personally is equally agitating for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. So if people will, there's a possibility, like you said, for roundtable discussion, and if we can achieve that, there's still possibility of getting him released. And it is not about taking arms now, but using political strategies to ensure that that will be achieved. Do you understand me? So when it's just like when you are going to a petrol station to go and buy fuel, you don't go there with fire. No. Do you understand me? So you have to extinguish the fire first before you now go to buy fuel.
Well, Mr. Wilson,
that is a simple explanation to this, yes.
And I do hear you on this. I think we can't have this conversation without acknowledging that to some degree we have seen a reduction in attacks in the Southeast. 2022 leading into 2023, we were seeing attacks everywhere, INEC offices, police stations, military checkpoints. We've not seen as much of that in at least the last, say, 6 months or so. The news has been quiet. Based on your observation of the region, can we categorically say that we're seeing an improvement in situation?
Yes, I must tell you that we've been able to do small analysis of the security situation in the Southeast, especially between November and December 2023, and I can tell you that we have drastic reduction of incessant attack within the region. A lot of persons that we were able to interview told us, including politicians, that this is December was the best Christmas we've ever had in the last 8 years. And why did we have that? It is continuous appeal. You understand me? So we continue speaking to the minds of the agitators. We continue talking about it. We continue educating people. We're emphasizing the need for us to have a peaceful environment. For the people that you're discussing with to know that you have genuine interest, that you have clear mind or conscience to end the insurgency or the insecurity in the region. It's only a few persons that are having issues now. People that have not been able to agree to lay down their hands. But if with continuous education, there's in communication, there's what we call a cultivational analysis. And the cultivational analysis means that you continue talking about it in continuous education. You sensitize people, and people will get to agree with you. Mm-hmm. You understand me, on what you are talking. And if they see sense in what you are doing, I think nobody would like to, stay in an insecure environment. And people believe that, the body language of the president seems to be one that might listen to, conversation, if we can have anything on the round table. Why it was that bad during Buhari, from our, perspective, or, what we were able to find out is that there was no any body language of, Buhari to show that, that he's ready for any conversation towards the release of Nnamdi Kanu. But with what Tinubu has been able to show now, people are getting a little bit convinced, that with, continuous discussion, that we can be able to have Nnamdi Kanu. Yeah.
So, Mr. Wilson, just as we wrap up, do you see a possibility? Is it possible that peace will be sustained in the region if Mr. Kanu is not released? Because he's still in court. We've not seen the process come to a conclusion, so we don't know what exactly will happen.
Yes, when you talk about ulcer, or when you talk about an ailment, you don't talk about getting rid of that ailment without tackling the issue that brought about the ailment. What brought about the agitation in the Southeast? It was the detention of Nnamdi Kanu. So if he will be released, nobody will be talking about the release of Nnamdi Kanu again, right? What we'll be talking about how to move the Southeast forward. Do you understand me? So if eventually Nnamdi Kanu is released, from my analysis and from what we have been able to find out, there will be reduction of, in fact, there will be drastic reduction of insecurity in the Southeast. Yes.
Mr. Wilson, thank you so much for your analysis and for your time this morning. Our guest, Chris Wilson, is a political commentator who has joined us to discuss recent comments by the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. Representative Benjamin Kalu says that peace must be returned to the Southeast before discussions around the release of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, can be had. And in just a few minutes on Now Breakfast, coming up is Brands Now. Stick around.
You're listening to Now Breakfast.
Good morning and welcome to The Interview. Since making an entrance into Nigeria in 1886, telecommunications has swiftly entrenched itself into the lives and businesses of Nigerians. The use of telecommunication services has grown astronomically since 1999 as various operators got licensed to operate in the Nigerian market. Now, a 2023 survey by the Nigerian Communications Commission pegged the number of mobile connections in Nigeria at 220 million subscribers. Now, while there have been drops in that number, the Nigerian market still remains a goldmine for telecommunications operators. The last 6 months of 2023 saw an increase in the cost of doing business and tariff hikes. It also witnessed an expansion of telecommunications infrastructure across the country and attempts by regulators to improve the quality of service rendered by operators. Our guest this morning is Mr. Agbolahan Awonuga, the head of operations at the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, ALTON. He joins us to discuss the campaign to register every mobile line under the NIN scheme, as well as some of the other knotty issues affecting telecoms operators. Mr. Awonuga, good morning and thank you for joining the conversation.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me on your studio.
Right. Mr. Awonuga, the conversation around NIN and the need to register every line in Nigeria has been going on for a few years. There were threats to bar lines that have not been registered under the NIN scheme. What are your thoughts regarding the efforts to get every Nigerian line registered, and how important is it for for mobile subscribers in Nigeria to have the NIN?
Well, thank you once again. As you have said, my name is Bola Awonuga. I work for the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, the umbrella body for all licensed telephone operators and infrastructure companies in Nigeria, including the ISP. Well, it is a good thing that subscriber needs to attach their name to their SIM. When you look at the security situation in the country today, and the capacity of NIMSI, that is the Nigeria Identification Management Commission, it became something that we that are partners in progress should assist in doing. Now, when you look at the coverage of the telecom space, I think we have the largest coverage in Nigeria today in terms of subscribers, in terms of landscape, in terms of infrastructure. And the only way that we can get everybody on the Nigerian database is to go through the telephone subscribers. And when you look at those people who are committing crimes today in Nigeria, most of them use their telephone lines to commit this havoc. So that is why the government, through the assistance of through the app of the telephone service provider, now that everybody that is carrying a telephone must be attached to the national database.
Mr. Awonuga, if I may interrupt you for a moment, your point about this helping with security matters, I mean, that's something, as you rightly said, we heard the government saying this under the previous administration. It was one of the things they touted as a positive of this move. But for telcos, for providers such as members of your association, how beneficial is it? What does it do for you?
Yeah, for us, don't forget that we are not identity management operators. We are airtime operators. But unfortunately, or can I say fortunately or unfortunately, we find ourselves in that side. Because Nigeria of today, or Nigerians, we're supposed to be service provider operating airtime, but we find ourselves in the area of power, generating power also, doing transmission also, doing infrastructure also. So when the government came and there are issue of security challenge, there is nothing we can do than to support them, even though it's impacting on our business, because we are talking about capacity issue. If a member doesn't have name, they can't register their SIM. If the subscriber doesn't have name, they can't register their SIM. And if they can't register their SIM, they cannot be on our line. And this has reduced the number of subscribers, because I think going forward now, some lines are already being barred one way, and this is affecting our operation and is slowing down our businesses as well.
Right.
But because we are partner in progress, because we want to help the government, so we are taking it upon ourselves also to help in generating all these names, so that we can have all Nigerians on the database.
It's an applaudable thing to partner with the government to carry out these sort of initiatives, especially when it concerns identity management and security. But there's a report that came out just this morning from the that's carried on Nairametrics. It talks about the NIMC's need to clear a backlog of payments to NIN enrollment agents in the first quarter of 2024. I wonder if you can speak about this in the sense of whether the delay in paying front-end partners has in any way affected the registration of numbers, because we're talking about 2023 saying 220 million mobile subscribers in Nigeria, and the numbers of those who have NIN in this year is just a little over 100 million. So is this delay affecting the effectiveness or the speed at which front-end partners are helping to register people's NINs?
Well, you see, let the truth be told. We say without yes and what. You see, there is capacity issue on the side of NIMC. And this capacity issue is affecting us. It's seriously affecting us. But when you are dealing with government, they are the one who gave you the license. We have a lot of backlog of verification to be done by NIMC. And if the verification are not done, we cannot put subscriber on the network. So this has affected, is slowing, like I said before, it's slowing down our business. But if you have the yam and you have the knife, you decide what to do with it. We have been complaining. If not that we came into the scene, we wouldn't have achieved what we have achieved. But yet, most of the problems are still coming back to us. So it's as if, I wouldn't say we are regretting even trying to assist. Because all the fallout is now coming back to us. What is our own business in identification management? But because we are the major channel that can be used to achieve it. So that is why we are in it. And thank God, when we came in, we had a source. There was a huge success. And the issue of whether they pay or they do not pay, the issue is capacity issue. And I would say it's the issue of capacity. And I think the NIMC should just brace up and upgrade their network or upgrade their system so that they can accommodate and they can verify the name citizen that I want to register for this name. So that is just what I will say.
So I want to shift the conversation a bit. Earlier, you started to talk about the cost of doing business. Of course, if anybody is operating in the Nigerian economy today, we have a sense that everybody has had to, quote, tighten their belt even more. Yet, I think this was last year, the NCC put out a report that said the teledensity in the country had increased, right? So we're getting more coverage, even though we're not at 100%. Speak to us about the current economic situation and how that has affected your members and their ability to deliver service, quality service.
Well, we are not isolated from the economic situation. There is no sector that is isolated. And it will interest you that in all the economic sector, it is only the telecom that have not reviewed their tariff. Despite the fact that we are more impacted in the issue of when you look at the cost of diesel, we are the how will I put it? We are the highest user of diesel in this country, and diesel from 250 to about 1,020 naira now. You know what that means, and all the infrastructure, all the location are carrying two generators, 24/7 on diesel. That is number one. Number two, the cost of production has really increased. We are operating in the same economic space. So we are saying that, okay, let's add something to our tariff so that we can also meet the target. Well, I hope that this year things will be resolved. If not, I foresee a crisis in the telecom sector.
If I may, Mr. Onuga, this matter of an increase in tariffs, I mean, it's not the first time we've heard the telcos try to push for the increase. The NCC has not agreed to this increase.
Not that NCC has not agreed.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of the situation.
Yeah.
So they consider, NCC always they are so customer centric. You understand?
Course.
Yes. And when you are subscriber centric, don't forget that there are some people who are also producing this service.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put let's put settlements apart.
And I understand this. So this does go back to what I was saying, which is that the NCC has not approved for reasons which you have mentioned. They've come out to say as much as the same thing. I'd like you to speak to us. I mean, help us really explain what it is. How much of an increase in the cost of business have your members incurred since this dramatic shift in our economy? Just to paint a proper picture of why you're pushing for an increase in tariffs.
Okay, let me just put it this way to you. In the last report, how many major operators meet up or make profit, apart from one major one? And the one major one you are talking about, the profit they made has drastically reduced. And why are we saying that? Because they have the number. You understand me? They have the number. What about the other big three? All of them recorded loss. So what they are just hanging on is the turnover. And let me just shock you. They are already retrenching some of their staff because they cannot meet up. I mean, you want better quality of service. We still have the state that are charging multiple taxation. We want better service. We have states that their right of way is so high, So we have to put this, we have to leverage on all these things. So we are saying to the NCC, look, yes, let's put settlement apart. Yes, we hear that some subscriber, they prefer to buy airtime than to eat. Yes, we know that what is a global village. But there is a cost to this service. And everybody sees how many times has the power sector increased their tariff. How many times, even the DSTV we are watching at home. So why should we be exceptional? The transport is not the same. Logistics has gone so very high. So the gap now is very well, and that's why I'm saying we should just be careful. We should not use settlement. They said there is a cap. Which cap? We are into business. Let the market force determine the tariff. Don't let us regulate the tariff again. Let's leave it. Let the market force determine. We still have the cheapest tariff in Africa.
Mr. Wonuga, I apologize for interrupting you, and I hear you when you talk about market forces, but that's a term that has been applied to a number of issues across Nigeria, especially issues that affect the cost of living and the ease of doing business. Now, given how important telecoms is to Nigeria, is there anything that the government is doing or discussing with people under your association that will make businesses run a bit easier and improve the services that we receive from members of your association?
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, we are being regulated. I would say we are the most regulated sector in Nigeria, and that is why we are successful, actually. And that is the gain we are having compared to the aviation, compared to every other sector. But you see, when you regulate prices, it gives you some kind of restriction. We are out of the market force now. Because it's like we are isolated from what is happening. Since when have we increased tariff? 2004? And are we still on the same level in which we are 2004? This is 2024. So the dynamics have changed. So that is what we are saying. Don't leave us, let the market determine. We know what the market is saying. We know how much we are buying diesel. We know how much we buy diesel 4 years ago, 3 years ago. We know how much we are buying it now. We know how much logistics is talking about. You cannot carry a diesel from the depot. Now the NNDPRA are saying all of us must get license. Apart from getting license from NCC. You understand me? For telecom services. Now we are not getting license for oil and gas. For us conveying our what do we call it, diesel for operational reasons to fuel our generator. So we have to get license again. You know that. Even NCC that is talking about they don't want to increase that, they review all their licensing fee, all the charges, they reviewed it. So let's just open us up, let the market for determining. Then we now see. A colleague of mine just returned from South Africa from holiday. He was complaining to me about 3 days ago. He said, look, man, the amount of money I pay for data in South Africa, then we are shouting here in Nigeria.
I mean, Mr. Onuga, you do paint a significant or a serious picture that we do need to consider. As we wrap up, I want to take you back to the earlier conversation around NIN-SIM linkage. We know that by next month, we will start to see people who haven't linked their NIN lose their SIM cards permanently. Does Alton have an estimate of how many subscribers are yet to do that? How many people will be affected by this?
Well, don't forget that we're supposed to have barred all this line according to the NCC instruction by 23 of December. Yes, that was the line, that was the directive. And we went to the NCC that said, come on, not at this time. Investors are leaving the country. And you want us to bar network, to bar subscriber at the festive period, the peak of our business. So we send in a lot of position paper to them to reconsider their directive. And that was why they now put it to February. And like I said, a lot of people will still be caught, being registered. Because the issue of capacity needs to be addressed.
So, Mr. Wonuga,
when we want to do something, we prefer to put citizens on hard, how will I put it?
Mr. Wonuga, I do apologize for interrupting you, but you've talked about capacity a couple of times. However, we want to know if there is an idea of the numbers of subscribers who will be affected when the barring of lines comes into play.
Currently I don't have the statistics, but I know that there is a minimal number of subscribers that can be verified in a day. You understand?
Yes.
Due to capacity. And that is why you have the backlog. Well, the backlog is not because of anything, it's because of the verification.
Mr. Onuga.
Today, the server will go down. Tomorrow, the server will come up. The server can go down in 3 days. So who bear that one?
Mr. Onuga, I mean
specifically the number of subscribers that will be cut out.
We want to say a big thank you for your time, sir. We do appreciate you speaking to us and laying out the issues in the industry that's faced by telecoms operators. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Our guest is Mr. Bolon Owonuga. He is the head of operations at the Association of Licensed Telecoms Operators of Nigeria, Alton, speaking to us on the challenges that face the telecoms sector, a major contributor to Nigeria's economy year on year. And that's the interview this morning here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. Stick around. Now Breakfast continues shortly.
You're listening to Now Breakfast